Hi there guys, welcome to Box Bread. Thanks for tuning in. Going to be looking at a fight here that's happening this weekend on the 16th of June. It sees Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. going up against Andy Lee, and it's for the WBC middleweight title which Chavez Jr. currently has. I believe this is going to be a classic inside versus outside battle. I believe that the champion Chavez Jr. wants this on the inside and Andy Lee wants it on the outside. Let's take a look at the challenger Andy Lee. If I can make the comparison, he reminds me of a Tommy Hearns type fighter. I believe that Emmanuel Stewart, his trainer, who also trained Tommy Hearns, has tried to mold him into that type of fighter. You know, he's tall, rangy, and he uses this to his advantage with his style. You know, he's not a tall, rangy fighter trying to fight on the inside, trying to mix it up. He's a tall, rangy fighter who wants to employ the jab, keep this at distance, and then he's got that power hand to back himself up. Positives for Andy Lee, advantages for his game. He can outbox guys from the outside. I think he's probably the more skillful fighter, particularly from distance in this fight. And if this remains on the outside, I don't think Chavez Jr. Or I think it works against Chavez Jr. I think Andy Lee can outbox him. He has the long levers. He has all the physical attributes to really, produce a good outside game. I'm guessing he has a slightly longer reach than Chavez Jr. I know he's slightly taller than Chavez Jr. by a couple of inches, and he's going to try and use this to his advantage. Another positive, he has good movement. He moves around the ring quite well, uses the whole ring. And he's got a decent punch. He's got a powerful left hand which he can back up, so he can, keep pouring that jab out there, and then come through with the left hand. He's got a decent knockout ratio, similar to Chavez Jr.'s 60-odd% mark. Let's look at a couple of negatives. For me, he gets backed up far too easily. He kind of invites pressure. And he can be reached and he can be hurt. We saw it in the McEwen fight, against Craig McEwen. He got hurt in that fight. He got backed up. And really, when you're a guy like him working at distance, you really need to use a very stiff, imposing jab to control the distance in the fight. Your opponent needs to be hurt from that jab, really, if you're going to keep him away from you. Your jab needs to tell your opponent, if you come within this certain distance, you're going to get popped, and it's going to hurt. And you've got to really discourage your opponent, particularly Chavez Jr., who's a really tough opponent, in my opinion, in terms of punch resistance, toughness, in taking shots. So he can be hunted, he can be caught, and he can be backed up against the ropes a bit too easily, in my opinion, which I think works against him in this fight. My key for Andy Lee in this fight, he needs not only to stay mobile from the beginning of the fight, establish an outside distance fight with that jab. The jab is key for him. Not only stay mobile and use that jab viciously, but he also needs to, if he does get backed up, which I think inevitably will happen towards the ropes or in a corner, he needs to have worked on something I've seen him do in the past, but he needs to do this to more effect in this fight. He needs to be able to use that lateral movement and slip out of the side and escape through the side door. If you keep doing this to a guy who's trying to pressure you, it can get frustrating for them and they can lose their head. If you keep inviting them on and then you slip out from the side. Some guys are very good at doing it. Although he got caught in the Maidana fight, we did see Amir Khan do it against Marcus Maidana, getting caught on the rope, slipping out the side, resetting. Then you make the opponent chase again, get the jab back in there, start resetting the fight, try and keep it at distance. If you get closed down again, slip out the side, move around the ring. This will, inevitably help in easing the stress and pressure of the opponent coming onto you. So that's my key for Andy Lee in this fight. Let's look at the champion Chavez Jr. Positives for him, I think he's going to use a pressure fight in this one. I think it's a no-brainer. He needs to. I think he likes doing that. He's very good at doing it. He's pretty good at cutting off the ring. He's tough, like I said. He's got a pretty good punch resistance. I think he can take a shot to give a shot. That typical sort of Mexican mentality and Mexican way of fighting and ability. He does have a pretty good range of punches as well. He's not to underrate him as a boxer. He's a pretty good puncher, and he needs to walk down and cut off the ring here against Andy Lee. It's as simple as that. My key for Chavez Jr. here needs to keep the work rate up because Andy Lee is going to try and outwork him from distance. He's going to have a jab against him. He can also use a jab, Chavez Jr. I think he's got a jab as well, but I don't think it's going to work in this fight. I think he needs to sort of kind of try and not ignore it, but not rely on that because, like I said, I think Andy Lee can outbox him from the outside. So he needs to keep the work rate up and he needs to force this onto the inside. And he needs to try and get Lee trapped against the ropes and particularly in the corners. That's where he's going to get his best work done. And this is key. Right from the start, when he does manage to, if he does manage to trap Andy Lee, he needs to work the body first and foremost. I don't want to see him trapping Andy Lee and trying to look for headshots, headhunting. I want to see body punches. That will wear Andy Lee down, it will slow him down, and inevitably then he will find it more difficult as the fight goes on to run away. Okay? Now, I'm looking at some negatives for Chavez Jr. For me, quite often, he has flaws in his game. One of those is he gets hit far too easily. He gets hit cleanly quite a lot. Now, I've already mentioned he has good punch resistance. He's a tough guy. But like I said, Andy Lee has a good left hand. If he can throw a straight left hand straight on and catch Chavez Jr., multiple times, you never know. He could really hurt Chavez Jr. I can't see it myself, but I just want to throw that out there because Andy Lee's a decent puncher, and when you've got a guy like Chavez Jr. who gets hit quite easily, in my opinion, you have to have some sort of concern over that. I believe he's less mobile than Andy Lee. He may have trouble at first trying to cut the ring off against Andy Lee, but that brings me on to the a big main point about this fight, which I believe has been made in other videos I've heard. That's the ring size. What size the ring is for this fight. We know if you look back to all throughout history, if you look at the days, Sugar Ray Leonard when he went up against Roberto Duran, they requested a 24 by 24 foot ring, extremely large ring, and that's because the mover always wants a larger ring. He wants more space to escape into, more space. That's more space for the pressure fighter to cover, more ring to cut off. Makes it more difficult to pressurize. I'm not sure how these negotiations may have gone to do with this, how they've gone about getting the ring size. I would imagine that Chavez Jr. is going to get his way, and I'm looking at the size of the ring, and I believe it may be a smaller ring, making it difficult for Andy Lee to get, to escape. However, Emmanuel Stewart, being knowledgeable as he is, may have fought them on this, and they might have come to some sort of negotiation and agreement. Maybe they've got, a bit of a larger ring for him. Maybe they've come to some sort of checks and balances agreement there. Now, I've been going back and forth in my head. I believe that Chavez Jr. wins this fight. I always have since it was announced. I'm just not sure how. I'm going back and forth in my head between a decision victory and a late stoppage. And I'm going to go for the late stoppage. I'm going to go for the 12th round, actually, the last round. I think that as the fight goes on, although Chavez Jr. might have some problems in the beginning, I believe that he will catch up with Andy Lee inevitably. I think Andy Lee does have trouble keeping pressure guys off him, particularly if they know what they're doing, and I think Chavez Jr. knows what he's doing. I think he's going to get close, I think he's going to trap Andy Lee, and I think he's going to work that body like I've mentioned, and I think he's going to slow Lee down, and he's going to end up hurting Lee. And I think it may be a TKO, I think that the towel may be thrown in. It's going to be latter stages, maybe not the last round, maybe from the 10th onwards, maybe round 10, 11, 12. I think the towel may come in for Andy Lee. He may survive, it might go the distance, but I'm going to go for the late stoppage. So I'm going to leave it there. Make this sub 10 minutes. I hope I made all the points I wanted to make. I hope I've given you guys something to think about with this fight. Yeah, classic inside versus outside fight. I'm picking Chavez Jr. by late stoppage. Thanks for watching.